is up, everybody? Welcome back to All About Sodor, the show where we talk about nothing but the island of Sodor. On today's episode, we got a special one. We're going to be talking about the Culdee Mountain Raailway. So let's waste no time and get straight into the history. The Culdee Railway was a brainchild of the Mid-Sodor Railway, which had, from the first, set itself to encourage tourism in the island and the Peel Godrey district in particular. It had been the Mid-Sodor's hope to be able to extend their line around the head of the valley of Culdee Mountain, where passengers could join a mountain railway for their ascent to the peak. But as the extension would have involved expensive engineering works for a line which would only be worked profitably for a part of the year, this part of the project would prudently dropped. Lord Peter Brain was the landowner whose property would have been most severely affected by the scheme, and he, while in favor of railways in general, was nevertheless reluctant to allow a railway to be built up in his mountainside in view of possible disfigurement to his natural beauty. Thus it was that for some years the project hung fire. This gave the Skarloey Railway an opportunity where they were not slow to seize. They were in a position to provide the easy access to a shorter route up the mountain, and saw it that their Culdee excursions were widely advertised. These became very popular. Trains were met at Skarloey Station by wagonettes, which took excursions to the point where the ancient path crossed the moorland road. The short climb proved most attractive, and the Skarloey Railway's enterprise had a depressing effect on the people of the Peel Godrey and Kirk Mansion, who saw those tourist traffic dribbling away to the other side of the island. At length, however, their woeful complaints accumulated in a deputation to Lord Peter with the request that he changed his mind. Thus, it was that in February 1897, the first sod of the Culdee Railway was cut by Lady Ilani, Lord Peter's eldest daughter, at Kirk Mansion. The sponsors were the Culdee Tamroad and Hotel Company, which had been formed a year under Lord Peter's chairmanship. He was therefore in a position to ensure that the lower section of the line made a detour skirting the edges of his property instead of cutting straight through it and up the hillside as had originally been proposed. The Snowdon Mountain Railway had been opened shortly before this, and on their advice, the apt rack system was adopted. Construction, too, was greatly helped by the Snowdon Company expertise. It is not surprising, therefore, that the two railways are similar in many respects. The main difference is that while Snowdon Railway's climb is short and sharp, 4.5 miles only, the Culdee line is twice that length, with easy gradients at the foot, steepening finally into a fierce 1 in 5 on the last half mile to Summit Station. Construction proceeded smoothly at the line was passed for passenger traffic in March 1900, a perfect roll into the new century, by the inspector from the Board of Trade. After rigorous tests both of operator methods and safety precautions, it was opened to the public on Whit Monday, and for over a month all went well. Then, on one return journey, the number 1 engine Godred left the rails at Devil's Back and fell down a ravine off the mountain. Quite a depressing ending. Happily, the passengers kept calm and no one was injured, but the engine, when recovered the next day, was found to be beyond local repair. Rebuilding at this stage was financially out of the question, so Godred's remains were put back on the Kirk Mansion sheds, where, for the next few years, they provided a useful collection of spare parts for repairing ropes. It was generally believed that a stone lodged between two teeth of the rack rail had caused the accident, but this had never been proved. The line was closed for the rest of the summer, whilst strenuous measures were taken to eliminate the possibility of an accident in the future. Reopened on Easter, Monday, 1901, the Culdee Railway has operated ever since the unbellished safety record. They have, of course, been minor mishaps, such as involving number 6, but these are rare. And though they cause annoyance and inconvenience, they have never resulted in injury to any passenger. Following farmers' complaints of their isolation and lack of transport, the Culdee Railway laid in sidings at Schillow and provided wagons for a good service. Business was brisk for a time, but since mountain railway charges were inevitably higher than those for ordinary lines, there were many complaints, and when road improvements have been made by the island council, local goods and passenger traffic dwindled away. The Culdee Railway disposed of the wagons and lifted the sidings, but kept the station. The line was run for 61 years by Ernest, Wilfred, Culdee, and Shane Dewey, who arrived on order from Switzerland for the opening of the line. The four were maintained by their crews, were sent periodically back to Switzerland for overhaul. However, in 1962, it became apparent that both Culdee and Shane never have needed heavy overhauls. 3 new engines, Lord Harry, Alaric, and Eric, were purchased to the latest superheat design. Lord Harry came first, allowing Culdee to be sent off to Europe, and Alaric and Eric arrived 6 months later, allowing Shane to leave for Switzerland. Ernest and Wilfred were superseded by the arrival of more modern locomotives. Following Shane's return in 1964, with the decline of the steam on the mainland and elsewhere, Sir Topham Hatt has since to it that the Northwestern Railway works at Crovan's Gate are equipped with machinery and craftsmen able to tackle any type of steam locomotive overhaul. Long and expensive journeys overseas for the Culdee locomotives are no longer necessary. And that is the history of the Culdee Railway. Pretty interesting. So, stay tuned for next time. We'll be talking about the splendid red engine James and his overall journey on 3 separate timelines. I hope you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, and keep on steaming.